everyone, my name is Natalie Stetson. I'm the Executive Director of the Erie Canal Museum in downtown Syracuse, New York, and welcome to another edition of Cookin' on the Canal, where the staff of the Erie Canal Museum is making recipes that are in the museum's collection. We've been using the recipe book of Oliver Wendell Petrie, who was a cook on the canal in the late 1930s. He worked on an oil barge called the Empire State. Usually you see your host Derek Pratt here. He's made some really delicious recipes so far, but this week I am joining you to make Oliver's recipe for royal date pudding. His recipe is not the most thorough, which means I will be experimenting a little bit. We're going to have to figure this out together, but I think it's going to be delicious. So let's get started. Okay, we've got all of our ingredients here. We've got a cup of flour, a cup of milk, a cup of chopped dates, half a cup of nut meats. I've used pecans because that's what I had. I chopped them up. Quarter cup of honey, quarter cup of orange juice, half a teaspoon of baking soda, and a quarter teaspoon of salt. I know Derek usually uses beer glasses for his ingredients, so I do have a couple of breweries represented here. Well, one brewery represented here. I've got Middle Ages, which is here right in Syracuse. Delicious beer. And then I've also got a glass from Tap Into the Most, which is an event that the Museum of Science and Technology does here in Syracuse. And now let's mix them up. The first step is to sift together our dry ingredients. I'm going to put in a cup of flour, the baking soda, and the salt. Salt with a little help. As you can see, I've got a little bit of a helper here. Now we're going to sift them together. Next it says to stir in the nut meats. So we're just going to pour in our pecans. And give it a stir. This is where the recipe gets a little ambiguous. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pour the dates and milk in a bowl and let them kind of sit together for a little bit. And what the recipe says is to moisten the dry ingredients, the flour with the nut meats, with the honey and the orange juice. It doesn't really explain what to do with the dates and the milk. So I'm gonna have them sit for a moment, roll them together. Let them just kind of sit and soak. This might have worked better if the milk was warm, not really sure. But my dates are pretty stuck together, so I'll just kind of break them apart a little bit. And then I think I'm going to mix the orange juice and the honey together as well, since the honey is pretty sticky. Mix it and let it get kind of more liquidy before I moisten the other ingredients. Got a tiny whisk here somewhere. There it is. Stir those together. So I think what I'll do is I'll put the orange juice and the honey in with the nut meats and the flour and the salt and baking soda, and then kind of fold in the dates and milk, sort of. Yeah, I mean, that'll be much easier to mix in. All right. Now we're going to try this moistening. So I'm pouring the orange juice honey mixture in with the flour mixture and nuts. moistened. Okay, and I made sure my dates were pretty broken apart in here, and now I'm just going to pour my date and milk mixture in with the flour. We'll see how this goes. Just kind of stir it up. Okay, the next step is to pour the mixture into a greased baking pan. I'm using a square baking pan. Some of the other date pudding recipes I looked at use 9x13s, but they also called for more ingredients. Like, lots of them had a cup of sugar in them. So maybe this will be a little thicker than it's supposed to be. I'm not really sure. Pouring it into a greased pan. And then we are to cover it, set it in a dish of water, and bake it in a moderate oven. So I've set the oven to 350. And Oliver's recipe says to bake it for an hour and a half. Most of the other recipes I've looked at online say 20 to 30 minutes. So I think I will set it for about half an hour and then check on it and see how it looks. Okay, I ended up leaving it in the oven to steam for about an hour. Turns out Oliver's recipe was maybe more correct than what I'd looked at on the internet. Let's see how it looks. All right, I'm gonna take the aluminum off. I think it looks pretty good. Let's see if we stick a toothpick in here. Comes out nice and clean. So we'll see how it tastes. I cut myself just a little piece out of the corner to try. Let's see how it is. That tastes really good. You taste that honey in there? Put orange juice a little bit too. It's really good. So some of you might be curious why this is a pudding. We know pudding is like a chocolate pudding, a vanilla pudding, a nice creamy dessert dish. Well, this is the more traditional British type of pudding, which is a type of dessert that is made with flour and steamed, which is why it was cooked in the water bath. So put it in the pot of water or the pan of water and cover it, and it steams, which is why I think it took longer to cook than what some of the online recipes called for. But it looks like an hour, did a good job. It's still nice and sticky. There's lots of varieties of date pudding that are sticky date puddings that you add a sort of sugar topping to. Now, Oliver's recipe is not for a sticky date pudding. It's just, we call it royal date pudding. And I will say, it's quite delicious. Happy baking, and thanks for joining us.